Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this week's show on Friday, April 29th, 2022. And Drew, you just mentioning that you had done a 22-hour in and out from Las Vegas for CinemaCon, right?
Yeah, I was probably closer to 24, but yeah, it was another kind of like run and gun. Mm-hmm. I think we left on Wednesday at 2 and got back around 6 on Thursday. So it was a lot.
Well, speaking of a lot, I saw what you tweeted out about Top Gun Maverick. And it obviously, in the weeks ahead, this is going to be a huge topic for you and Charles over on your Light the Fuse podcast. But you actually tweeted out that this is the best film of the year. And this was not hyperbole on Drew's part, because there's a whole bunch of people who, well, first of all, just the stories about grown men weeping at this screening and applause breaking out like 12 different times. And all these people sending out tweets about how emotional the movie was. And I didn't expect that for a sequel to a movie that was made back in 86.
Yeah, it is the best audience movie you could ever hope for. So try to find the most packed theater. I don't know how busy movie theaters get in the woods of New Hampshire, Jim, but find the biggest, the loudest, whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. It's just so great.
I'm honestly embarrassed that I'm just now realizing who the director of this, Joseph Kosinski, Mr. Tron Legacy.
Yep, Tron Legacy, and he made Oblivion, which was originally a movie called Horizons that Disney was going to make.
Okay.
And he actually told me one time that the Horizons name was pushed on him by Disney as a weird tie-in to the long-beloved Epcot attraction, even though it's been gone.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah, so he also directed this really great firefighter movie called Only the Brave. Did you ever see that, Jim?
I did not.
It's wonderful. Anyway, this movie is great, and it has all of the things you would expect from a Kosinski movie, kind of very mathematical camera movements, but it is a really emotional movie, and yeah, everyone was just sobbing at the end. Like, you could just hear, even when people in masks, it was just like the sniffles were coming out. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So I recommend everybody go see it.
CinemaCon is an event where exhibitors come to Vegas to check out films that they're going to run at the theaters. This is the toughest crowd on the planet. I mean, these guys don't care really about movies. They just care about, are people going to come and are they going to buy overpriced soda and popcorn? And so the fact that it made them weep, that's huge.
Yeah, Lenny, who runs a small chain of theaters in the coastal Connecticut region, he was cracking up and crying just as much as anybody else. Aww. So yeah, it's pretty wonderful. I can't wait for everybody to see it. It comes out at the end of May, and it's just going to make a gazillion dollars. But, yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. And again, as Drew was mentioning, Top Gun Maverick opens in theaters May 27th. Okay, lots of news this week, folks, and a lot of it coming out of CinemaCon. And as always, the news portion of Fine Tuning is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience, please book online at storybookdestinations.com. Okay, back to CinemaCon. We learned some interesting things about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Well, actually, it's not. It's just called Across the Spider-Verse now, right? Because the second one got a little
That's
name
right.
change,
That's
right?
the other news that came out of this event. We now have a title for the second sequel, and that's Beyond the Spider-Verse?
Yes, Beyond the Spider-Verse, which hits on March 29th, 2024. It's very interesting because those movies lost the Part 1, Part 2, and we were introduced to the Mission Impossible titles, which now will have Part 1 and Part 2. So, listen, what I'm trying to say, Jim, is there is a season turn.
Oh, and while we're at that, the Mission Impossible, what... I read it today, but I'm blanking it.
Dead Reckoning Part 1.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
And the initial bit of news coming out about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse was Chris Miller and Phil Lord were talking about 1,000 people working on this movie, 6 universes, and there were going to be 240 characters in the film. And You did see where Chris Miller tweeted out, want to clarify, out of the 240 characters, most of those are background. It's not like, you're going to sit there with your bingo card.
Yeah, it's background character. I think it's because, they were talking about how every universe has such a completely different look.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, so you can't put one character from one universe into another universe without drastically changing them, even if it's the cabbie, driving down the street. So apparently they showed the first 15 minutes in storyboard form.
They did.
Yeah.
And I guess it starts in Gwen Stacy's world. Really talked it up. In fact, 5 minutes in, Oscar Isaac's character, the voice he's voicing, Miguel O'Hara, shows up from his universe, and it's just right from the get-go, you are in this multiverse story. But speaking of other animated films that are getting their release dates changed, what do you make of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish getting pushed back from, what was it? It was supposed to be September this year to now December 21st.
Well, I talked to somebody who saw it last week or a couple weeks ago, and they were really impressed with how great it was. I don't think it's totally finished, but it's pretty close. Okay. So it's not a crisis of conscience, that's for sure. I think it just has to do with the other news, which is that Super Mario Brothers has been pushed to April 7th, 2023. So, yeah, they just needed something to fill that spot, right?
I've heard kind of an intriguing bend on why that got pushed out to April 7th of next year. Because in March of this year, they announced that Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood is opening in 2023. And basically what I'm being told is this is not a coincidence that the April opening has been pushed to that point. Evidently, this is planets aligned, sort of a super promotional event that the movie, in fact, I guess the movie post-premiere party will be held inside of Super Nintendo World, and evidently they're going to use the film to push the land and the land to push the film. So
yeah, I can imagine that the junket will be there also. Yeah.
Okay, so we got to get you into
how dynamic will those interviews be, Jim? When there's things animated behind you. I think that's pretty cool.
But the weird part of it is so many people now, when they stand up, on the hillside and are peering down into Super Nintendo, it's small, it's tiny, it's itty bitty, and it's like, no, it's immersive. When you're inside of it and you're surrounded, it will look cool.
No Donkey Kong though.
No Donkey Kong, not yet. Though Japan is supposed to get that, right?
Yes, and I think Epic Universe too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. But speaking of movies debuting, DreamWorks The Bad Guys opened in theaters this past weekend. Basically good news all the way around the barn. Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a freshness rating of 87%, audience rating of 93%. Studios seem very, very happy that it sold 23.9 million worth of tickets in North America.
Did you see it?
I have not yet.
Have you seen on Twitter how many people want to have sex with the fox or whatever it is, the wolf? Have you seen that? It's a widespread phenomenon, I will say that.
Which brings us to what we'll be talking about on the second half of today's show, which is Bugs Bunny and drag.
Yes.
But back to The Bad Guys. Currently at 92 million worldwide in ticket sales, sure to slide past the blockbuster barrier sometime this weekend. But exhibitors seem very happy, especially when you consider, given that we're still in that space where there isn't really a vaccine yet officially for kids, but family films seem to be coming back.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next big family film that people seem to be excited about, which, of course, is Lightyear, which you have seen a very big chunk of.
Yes.
But they showed a half hour's worth of it at Comic-Con. By the way, I wanted to show you, Drew, on last week's show, you mentioned that, well, Jim, have you gone to Target? Have you gotten your socks? And it's like, it's right here.
I have very advanced capabilities.
So it's the plush that says 20 different things.
Oh, wow.
With Peter Som's voice. And I've been meaning to line up all of our Disney and Pixar related plush and get that image out there on Twitter, but literally had to search the Targets in our area and request that they set one aside for us. So, but thank you. Thanks for the heads up. We got that. Speaking of giving folks a head up, this literally came in from Stuart Ng's bookstore in Torrance, California just today. They are currently accepting pre-orders on The Art of Lightyear. The first printing of this book is going to be signed by Angus MacLean and Peter Sohn.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of that guy. And
No.
supposedly Angus, who worked at Pixar since, good Lord, A Bug's Life, is supposedly particularly pleased with how this art of book came together. Those two are definitely going to be signing the book. They're trying to get other folks who worked on the film lined up. It's going to hit store shelves on May 7th. Or excuse me, May 17th.
You want to see what I got, Jim?
Oh,
you want to see what look at what
don't hurt. Hey! Oh my God! Wow! I have ordered a copy of that. The Disney Revolt. That's
I
not
got
out till
a proof.
July, right?
Yeah. Uncorrected proof. We can't, so I won't be quoting directly from it. But
Oh.
I am so excited. And I reached out to the Don Bluth people today, so hopefully they'll get back to us.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the Disney Revolt, what's cool about this is it's supposedly the first definitive history of the strike in 41, right?
Mm-hmm. The Great Labor War of animation's golden age. And obviously, if people have been paying attention to anything going on right now, the IATSE stuff, all the problems at Netflix.
There you go.
I mean, again, Jim, there is a season turn, and we are back there. An essential piece of Disney history that has largely been unreported for 80 years. How about that?
I remember talking with Floyd Norman about this and the topic of why isn't there a book yet? And Floyd said, look, the anger from who crossed the picket line, who was out on the picket line, it crossed generations. It was one of these things where kids were basically taught to hate the kids of the animators who, so it's like when you think about how many animators' kids went into the business as well. And Floyd was like, you literally have to wait for a bunch of people to die before you can tell this story because the emotions are still that strong. There are so many people who legitimately felt betrayed by friends and colleagues who either crossed the line or those who stood out on the picket line. So, no, dying to read that book.
Yes, I'll let you know if I can get to it. I will let you know.
Cool.
I'm sure we'll talk about it in July, obviously, as well.
Oh, and as long as we're waving things back and forth, which no one can see because this is a podcast, not a vlog. But I did get my copy of The Art of Bad Guys.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I've been told there is one set aside for me.
Oh, well.
In Alhambra, so I have to go grab it.
Go to Gallery Nucleus. Okay, as long as we're talking about art books and that sort of thing, having just heard about the new Leica project, The Night Gardener, really hoping that this one gets an art book as well. Can you talk about this one?
Yeah, I mean, it is a project that is being written by Ozark co-creator Bill Dubuque, and it is an original idea that is described as a gritty neo-noir folktale centered on a young man in rural Missouri who's fighting to keep his family together in the wake of a tragedy. It will be an unflinching portrait of sacrifice, self-reliance, and revenge, and the image that they released, which the publicist told me was toiled over by what she called the lichens, which I have never heard before and I think is extremely awful. It's like, some kind of like rose petals and a very generous splattering of blood. So I think this will be the first R-rated Leica film. That is my prediction.
And the other thing I think significant here is that Wildwood is in production right now at Leica.
Yes.
And is this the first time Leica sort of, in a while, that Leica's made it themselves aware, or the world aware that, oh, by the way, we're working on this, and we have a second stop-motion project in the pipeline?
Yeah. We used to know that pretty regularly, and then they kind of stopped. But what's interesting, too, is that Travis Knight is directing both, which I think is really fascinating.
Thank you for bringing that, because wasn't it last year that Netflix announced he was going to be directing Uprising, a live-action vampire film for them?
Yes.
Oh.
I don't know, Jim. I don't know if you've read anything about Netflix in the news recently. We'll see if that actually happens.
I stand corrected, folks. I stand corrected.
We'll see. Listen, it's always good to have a backup, and I think that maybe he's figured out a way of working live action and also doing the animated projects at the same time.
Well, speaking of future projects, just today at Disney's California Adventure, Disney Junior held its second annual Disney Junior Fun Fest, which, again, given that that's the theme, this is the theme park that has the Disney Junior Dance Party attraction in the Hollywoodland section of that theme park. So it's like, okay, it makes sense that they'd hold a special event there. But they announced 4 new series that are debuting on Disney Plus and Disney Junior through 2024. But I'm just kind of intrigued to see Disney doing this now. Again, another sign that, in Disney's eyes at least, the pandemic is over. Did you see it's a month-long series of things they're doing, the LCAP, the FYC presentations for your consideration?
No, I mean, I know that we're just as we're getting out of the Oscars, we're knee deep in Emmy stuff. So,
well, that's the thing.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
It's like literally 3 solid weeks of things like presentation. I mean, they'll hold panels inside of the El Cap, and then evidently there'll be parties afterwards over at the Roosevelt Hotel. But it's celebrating shows like Blackish, which just finished its run on ABC, but also Only Murders in This Building, which, season 2 debuting in June. But on and on and on. But only a Disney can, come to our press event at California Adventure, or come to our press event at El Cap. But back to the Disney Junior news, they announced the renewal of Alice's Wonderland Bakery, as well as the launch dates for the next season of Eureka and Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which the next season drops in August. And of course, we have the Mickey Mouse Funhouse Pirate Adventure. Did you see this news where John Stamos is voicing not only Iron Man for Spidey and His Amazing Friends, but also, I swear to God, folks, this is a real name, Captain Salty Bones on the Mickey Mouse Funhouse Pirate Adventure? It's clearly Disney adhering to Jeffrey Katzenberg's old playbook. I mean, John Stamos now has his 3-year-old son, Billy. And whenever a celebrity would have a child, Jeffrey would write that down, put that information in his Rolodex, and then would wait till the child got 3 or 4 years old and then reach out to that celebrity with the offer to appear in a Disney animated film. That, for example, is supposedly how he got Demi Moore to do the voice of Esmeralda. I think rumor was just the right age that, mom's going to be in a Disney animated film. And celebrities who were that much weaker at that position, they had a harder time saying no to Disney because it's like, I can show this movie at home to my kids.
Right.
When you make G.I. Jane or that sort of thing, there's precious few of your films you can actually show your kids. But Jeffrey would get them to commit.
Jim, don't talk about G.I. Jane, Jim. That's been a trigger for too much violence already.
There we go.
You know what I mean?
All right, I stand corrected. Also, coming out of this Disney Junior presentation, they're doing some more short form stuff. There's a Me and Mickey, where it's Mickey talking with preschoolers about things like their daytime and nighttime routines or how to pack a backpack. And on the other hand, I'm kind of intrigued to see they're bringing back Winnie the Pooh. It's going to be a musical short-form series with Pooh and his friends in the 100-Acre Woods. And forgive me, folks, this is a terrible transition, but we're going from Piglet's pal to the Joker's former paramour.
Well, before we do that, Jim, did you see that in the Star Wars Celebration schedule that they kind of reveal that there is a short-form preschool aged series that they're going to be talking about at
is that still tied to the... Remember, I think we talked about the Galactic Pals, the Ewok.
I don't know if...
This is
I don't know if it's that, but I'll find the listing. But it was just very funny because they hadn't announced this project yet, whatever it is, and then it just shows up on the schedule for Celebration.
You gotta, but it's again, you gotta love all these carefully hatched. We're gonna announce on this date, and then somebody slips something into a schedule unthinking, and there goes your story.
And there it is.
There we go.
Yeah, but back to Joker's former paramour.
Well, Harley Quinn, we have a 3rd season of the Great Animated Series. However, it's since moved over to HBO Max, with season 3 debuting this summer. But HBO Max also picked up a spin-off of Harley Quinn called Noonans. Have you
Yes.
watched enough Harley Quinn to know about Kite Man?
Yes, of course.
Oh, well, all right, then, and his new girlfriend, because again, things didn't quite work out with it was Poison Ivy he was after, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's kind of he's not the brightest bulb.
Well, there we go. All right. But he and his new squeeze, Golden Glider, have bought a bar, Noonan's. And in order to keep it, and this is described as Gotham City's seediest dive bar. And in order to keep the place afloat, they must, go out and do all sorts of crimes. But yeah, HBO has picked up the show for 10 episodes. And who knows, it could be as successful as the Despicable Me films, which, getting back to CinemaCon, we had Steve Carell turn up there to hype Minions, The Rise of Gru, which arrives in theaters on July 1st. And you weren't there for this one. I mean, you just ran in to do Paramount, right? Or
Yes, although I wish I had been there for the Universal one because it sounded like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They paired the celebrities with theater owners, which I thought was really nice.
Steve came on stage with Everard Allen. He's the general manager of the Cineplex Winston Churchill Theatre from Oakville, Ontario, up in Canada. And while on stage, Steve gave Everard lessons in how to do the voice of Gru. Evidently, the secret is you have to pitch your voice up a little higher. And as a thank you for going on stage with him, evidently the team at Illuminations had actually put together some animation of Mr. Allen, which I thought was kind of cool. Again, I'm so jealous that you got to go to CinemaCon because we were actually talking about doing this together earlier this year. Though,
yes.
Just a quick side note, because you managed to do this and your mom's 70th birthday celebration in Nebraska. How did that go?
Yes, it was great. Yeah, I've been all over, Jim, and I'm thankfully just did my COVID test and I'm negative, so keep rolling that dice, Jim, because nobody's wearing a mask anywhere in this country.
I know.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to wonder on Monday night when they did that New York Pops fundraiser at Carnegie Hall, how many folks were wearing masks, because this one I really wish I'd gotten to. This was a concert, folks, for the first time in forever, the songs of Kirsten and Bobby Lopez. And this fundraiser was originally planned back for spring of 2020, and at that point it was called Into the Unknown. And 2 years later, Bobby Lopez describing this event, look, we've had enough unknown, and so now it's, for the first time in forever. And a friend of the show, Josh Gad, was there with Andrew Reynolds and Nikki M. James. They did 3 songs from the Book of Mormon. They brought back original cast members for Avenue Q. Likewise, performed numbers from Coco, Frozen, and Frozen 2. I think the big question that both of us would have asked is, so any music from Gigantic?
Yeah.
But I've been looking all over online. I haven't found anybody who's gone to the concert yet and talked about what they saw or what they heard. Or perhaps Josh will fill us in.
Yes.
Speaking of Disney and Pixar-related stuff, when we get back from this break, Drew will share what he learned from Eric Goldberg and Mark Henn about Disney Plus's new sketchbook series.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Now, you interviewed Mark Henn and Eric Goldberg.
Yes.
And you've talked to these guys a number of times over the past 10, 15 years or thereabouts.
Yes.
What was different this time around?
Well, you know it was different, Jim. They've got this new program that they're working on that is for 2D projects. And they were both very excited. Also, it was the first time I had talked to Mark since I had rewatched the episode of Full House where he teaches Dave Coulier how to draw. So...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I had to bring that up to him. So that's a pretty funny chat. You know, both of these guys are just so open and so funny and so knowledgeable and have zero ego about them, even though they are two of the most amazing artists of our generation.
Oh,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it was just, you know, sitting down with those two, it's just, you know, it's a very casual kind of warm conversation. So it was just nice to catch up, you know, like, you remember this, like, you know, I was going down to the animation studio. It felt like once a week before the pandemic, and then for 2 years to not be there. So it was fun. They decorated a hallway that looked like Encanto. So just the whole thing of being there was really, really lovely. And I love Sketchbook. Did you watch the episodes?
It is on my list for this weekend, in addition to getting out to see Bad Guys.
Okay.
Drew really does have a lot of self-control. It may not seem like it, but Drew does, because I can remember, how far back were you telling me about Chip and Dale's Rescue Ranger and the whole Dale has had the CG operation and Chip has not? I mean, you knew about that 2 years ago? At least a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
So after hearing about this project for so long and the whole conceit, what did you think of the trailer that dropped this week for it?
I thought it was fun. I will say that gag where Pumbaa and Seth Rogen interact, that is not the only Seth Rogen voiced character that you will see in that scene.
Really?
And more people are starting to see this movie too, so I'm getting all of these kind of like, you'll never believe who was in the background of this one scene. So I think it's very good that it's coming to Disney Plus, because we're all going to be freeze framing and trying to figure out who is in this thing, because it's going to be wild. I cannot wait.
Given how Peter Pan looks in the trailer, that must have been a very interesting conversation, especially given Peter and Wendy, right?
Yeah, I think that he has gone through a little bit of a change. We will talk about how this movie changed during production when it comes out. Okay. Because I want to see if the things that I was told early on actually pan out in the final version. So okay. Yeah, let's put a pin in that, Jim, and we will come back to Peter Pan.
Okay, we will. Yeah. And folks, I so wanted to be able to do a transition here where I said, speaking of rodents, but it turns out that the class Rodentia does not in fact include rabbits. Rabbits are different than rodents because they have an extra set of incisors and different skeletal features. So there's your bizarre fact for the day. But Drew, you brought up Bugs Bunny was trending on Twitter, right?
Yeah, this is actually the #1 story on the Wrap right now, which is really something. I wrote about it earlier today. But yeah, I mean, Ron DeSantis, who is obviously me and Jim's, political hero.
Here we go.
Brought up, right? He said something to the effect of, one of the things that really bugged me are these videos with all these people that are high up at Disney talking about how it was their intention to inject sexuality into the programming for these very young kids, which of course is a complete fantasy that I don't know what he was. Maybe he ate a hoagie before bed or something. When we were young, he says, you could watch cartoons without having to worry. Now parents have to sit there and worry about, what are they trying to inject in? What kind of ideology are they trying to pursue? And that is wrong. And so immediately, because Twitter, at least for the next few days, is a very amazing place. And they immediately jumped on the fact that canonically Bugs Bunny is actually trans or non-binary. And I thought we could talk about that tonight because I think that is just such a cool little detail. And and how it was adopted, let's say, too, by Chuck Jones.
Well, yeah. I mean, the weird part of it is that the character wasn't even called Bugs Bunny officially. It was the third cartoon with the rabbit character. When for the first time, he dressed up as a female character. This was Harem Scarum, released in August of 1939. But yeah, it wasn't a bug, it was a feature of the character. I mean,
yes,
Bugs constantly cross-dressed. And in such a convincing fashion, virtually every male character he came up against when he was dressed as a lady immediately wanted to have him. I actually tonight went and checked prior to the show. Bugs dressed in drag 43 times over the course of his career. 4 times in 1945, 5 times in 1949, and the very last time they had him put on female clothing in a short that was animated at the Termite Terrace was Dr. Devil and Mr. Hare, which was 1964. So think about it. That's 20 solid years of them. I mean, this was a gag in the Warner Brothers repertoire.
You've read Chuck Amuck, right? His book. And so there's an anecdote in there about how he was confronted with this in the 80s during the kind of it was during I'm sure, the burgeoning of the AIDS crisis, and LGBTQ and trans activists started using Bugs Bunny, and he ended up talking to them, and they explained it, and he said, okay, but I mean, we won't use the terminology that he used because I think it was a little outdated, but he said, okay, but Bugs is trans or non-binary as we would know it today. And, he talks about how he was based on Loki, who is a kind of trickster god figure in Norse mythology, and how they were all kind of non-binary. And it's just amazing that he made that leap. Like, he wasn't young. He was towards the end of his life in the 80s, too. It's not like it was a young, hip guy saying, yeah, Bugs is trans now. He was, older and took a lot of consideration at this. And I just think it's so amazing.
I agree. But this was so accepted, a part of who Bugs Bunny was, what made the character special and fun and hilarious. In fact, in Looney Tunes Back in Action, there's an exchange between Warner Brothers VP Kate Houghton, the character that Jenna Elfman played, and she's talking with Bugs about how they could possibly revamp his career. And so Kate says, we'll team you up with a hot female co-star. And Bugs says, well, usually I play the female love interest. And Kate says, about the cross-dressing thing. In the past, funny. Today, disturbing. And Bugs' response is just right on the money. It's like, lady, if you don't find a rabbit in a lipstick amusing, you and I have nothing to say to each other. And Looney Tunes Back in Action, not the greatest film on the planet, but at the same time, animation by supervised by Eric Goldberg, live action by Joe Dante, and miles better than Space Jam: A New Legacy. And for me, the movie's worth it alone for the scene where Elmer chases Bugs and Daffy in and out of the paintings at the Louvre.
Yes.
Personal favorite moment for the movie is when Steve Martin's character, the Mr. Chairman from the Acme Corporation, has too many remotes in his desk and can't figure out which one he has to use to set his evil plot in motion. I mean, it's a gag Martin does like 3 and 4 times during the movie, and each time, it's funnier to me. And by the way, while we're talking about things that are trending on Twitter, the whole Steve Martin isn't funny thing that bubbled up this week.
I think I missed that. But before we get into Steve Martin isn't funny, I just want to say that I also found an interview with RuPaul today, and he said that Bugs Bunny introduced him to drag. So I just want to say to DeSantis, who's so worried about corrupting children with new cartoons, the old cartoons corrupted us too.
Yes,
there you go.
Did. But I love that Bugs paved the way for RuPaul. That's great. That's great.
Yes. Wait, what happened? Why are millennials saying Steve Martin isn't funny?
Somebody found a version of the King Tut song And it just sort of like, this was a hit song on radio and people thought was funny. You know, I don't get this. And it was like, well, first of all, you're looking at an edited version of a Saturday Night Live skit, and there's this lovely, like, 2 and 3 minute lead in where Steve is doing his faux irate thing about the King Tut exhibit that was touring the United States at that point. And, you know, here our Americans are, you know, of course, cashing in, and they're making coffee cups and T-shirts and posters of this historical figure, you know, that we should be celebrating these antiquities and not cashing in on them. And I was so angry, I wrote a song. And then it leads into, of course, the don't think I'm a nut, don't want no fancy funeral, just like one like old King Tut. It's a particularly funny number if it has the right lead in. But at the same time, it's Steve Martin. And as Bugs just said, if you don't find Steve Martin amusing, you and I have nothing to say to one another.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, though, worth noting here, season 2 of Only Murders in this Building starts on June 28th. So, okay, top of the show, we were talking, obviously, about Top Gun Maverick and how much you enjoyed that. And likewise, did you get to see any of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning at the event?
Yeah, there's a new trailer, and it is out of this world. We have an episode up already right now about the trailer and Top Gun, so... yeah, check that out. Yeah, the trailer is amazing, Jim. It's just, it's Fallout to the nth degree. I mean, it's just insane.
Okay, so brand new episode out. Is this about having seen Top Gun Maverick, or?
Yes, it's a spoiler-free look at Top Gun Maverick. I'll say that.
All right. Yeah. Again, you could have followed along with Drew's adventures and been among the first to read about Top Gun Maverick being, you know, one of the best film of the year if you were following on social media. So can you tell folks how they can do that?
Sure. It's Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, on Instagram and Twitter.
Tell you what, folks, if you could do Drew and I a favor, if you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and recommend, well, not just the show you're listening to right now, find Tooning, but also Light to Fuse. That would be very helpful. Likewise, if you really, really, really like what you heard here tonight, if you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be cool. And Drew was just mentioning social media, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. And folks, we are going to close the show down now because Drew needs to go lie down.
I know. I have to get up tomorrow and go to the Doctor Strange.
Well, no, that's it exactly. I mean, you get in 5 minutes of sleep before you have to go talk about, you know, what's going on with the MCU. So,
yeah. So many multiverses, Jim.
So many multiverses. All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks, and we will be back with a brand new episode next week.